Hello and welcome everybody to Comedian MTG. On today's episode, we are doing a deck tech of how to make K-9 Mark 1 and the 14th Doctor a cEDH deck. This is going to be an interesting brew today, and I'm really excited to bring it all to you. Y'all may have heard me talk about this deck on a recent episode of the Mind Sculptors podcast. Mind Sculptors is a podcast I host with CallahanIsHere, and it is a podcast where we talk all about cEDH. I will leave a link to that specific episode down in the description below. But basically, we're talking about this card and how to break it in cEDH. And I figured what a better transition than to actually make a deck tech of this deck. We have K-9 Mark 1 here and the 14th Doctor. Why is this a cEDH combination? Basically, the 14th Doctor can actually be used as an infinite mana outlet. And the fact that the 14th Doctor is actually as a base level 4 colors, right? The 14th Doctor will allow you to have it enter the battlefield, look 14 cards deep, and put a Doctor card in your graveyard. It then has the ability to be able to become a copy of any Doctor card put in the graveyard this turn. So we have 2 Doctors here. Primarily, we are trying to use the 3rd Doctor. And the 3rd Doctor says whenever it enters the battlefield, create your choice of a clue, food, or treasure token. So if you make a clue token, basically when you have infinite mana, you're able to use those clues, crack them all, and draw your entire deck. The 3rd Doctor also allows you to filter if you have something like Food Chain, for example, which normally can only make infinite mana to cast creature spells. But if you're able to then convert that to treasures, you're able to convert it to treasures, then convert it to clues, and draw your whole deck and cast all of your spells, whether they are creatures or not. So 3rd Doctor is obviously our stronger Doctor and the one we will be pushing for here. Then there's also the 8th Doctor, which is sort of our backup Doctor. The 8th Doctor has the ability to enter the battlefield and mill 3 cards, and it says once during each of your turns you may play a historic land or cast a historic permanent spell from your graveyard. If you do, it gains, if this permanent would leave the battlefield, exile instead of putting it anywhere else. Basically, the idea is from this Doctor we are able to put all of our mana rocks onto the battlefield after we mill our entire deck, and then usually use something like a Sabine's Reclamation to flash back a Underworld Breach or some other win con like that. So now we know why we have the 14th Doctor in the deck. It basically is an infinite mana outlet when you're able to pick it up and cast it over and over again for Temur Sabretooth plus Dockside lines and Squee the Immortal through Food Chain line. So it is a Food Chain and Dockside outlet in the command zone. We also have our other partner here, K-9 Mark 1. And this is a Doctor's Companion. You're wondering, why are we using K-9? And basically the simple part of it is that it is a 1 mana legendary creature that also has the artifact subtype. So it is basically played for the same reason that most people play Rograk and Rograk Silas, right? It enables those insanely quick and explosive hands, right? So we are able to use cards like Deflecting Swat, Fierce Guardianship. We're not playing Infernal Plunge in this list, but you definitely could play it for this list. You also have Mox Amber turned online as early as turn 1. You have Springleaf Drum turned online pretty early, and you have Mox Opal. Your K-9 is an artifact, so it actually counts for one of the Mox Opal count, meaning you only need 1 other artifact to have your Mox Opal online early in the game as well. So K-9 basically is that extra bit of foot on the gas pedal for your deck. It's the thing that allows the 14th Doctor to be able to have these combos explode off pretty early in the game. We have 2 more combos in the deck after that. We have Teferi Time Raveler in combination with Displacer Kitten. If you have any sort of mana rock that will allow you to basically pick it up with Teferi or a mana value less than the amount of mana it can make, so Mana Crypt, able to be picked up for 0, and then cast for 0 and taps for 2. Lotus Petal can be picked up and played for 0. Soul Ring costs 1, but it makes 2 mana, and therefore it can be picked up and played. Mana Vault, same thing there, right? So if you have any one of those artifacts, you can draw your entire deck with Displacer Kitten and Teferi. The other combos in our deck revolve around Underworld Breach. We are either A, able to do the classic Underworld Breach plus Lion's Eye Diamond plus Brain Freeze combo, milling through the majority of our deck and then finishing our opponents off, usually by generating another infinite combo or something of that similar nature. We also can be able to use Underworld Breach with Grinding Station. Grinding Station is a very powerful card that basically allows you, in a similar way, to have an artifact that either makes equal or more mana than it costs. You're able to cast those out of your graveyard over and over again, triggering Grinding Station and milling through your entire library. So now that we know the combos, let's talk about the game plan, right? This deck is meant to be fast. This is a deck that lacks black, right? So we do sort of lack the consistency with those types of tutors. But what we gain is an outlet in the command zone and a bit of speed with K-9, right? We get 4 color and we get the ability to go pretty fast with our 2 commanders here. One thing to note about these commanders is that they do not have any card draw attached to them. You notice these are 2 commanders that both sort of, I mean, the 14th Doctor can dig for a Doctor, but apart from that, it's not really digging for any sort of card advantage. So we kind of have to make up for that with our deck. And there are several sources of card advantage with this list that help us with that resource. We have Heuristic Study, we have Sylvan Library, we have Mystic Remora, we have the One Ring, and if you notice all the way up here in the Planeswalker slot, we have Mind Sculptors Timeless Heroes. Now I get asked about this one a decent amount. Basically, Mind Sculptors is draw 4 cards and deal 4 damage to target creature every other turn. Actually, just target permanent every other turn. So yeah, Mind Sculptors Timeless Heroes is really, really good. And thank you to Millennium Gaming for pointing this one out to me. The card is actually really strong and able to put up a lot of good results. So we have this fast deck, and you can check it out here in the creature slots. A lot of these proactive things that get your game plan going pretty quickly. We also have the things that will allow us to push through our combos. So we have Grand Abolisher, Kutsil, and down here, Defense Grid. We have a lot of different ways to be able to protect our combos and ensure that we are the deck that is able to go off both quickly and efficiently. It's very easy nowadays for a lot of folks to sort of wall up behind things like Heuristic Studies and the One Rings and try and sort of counter every spell that comes their way. But when you have cards like Defense Grid, Kutsil, and Grand Abolisher, it's very easy to be able to try and break through that hold. We have sort of a standard suite of interaction here, a decent amount of tutors for creatures, obviously mostly for the dockside combos, or, you know, for the other half of the food chain combo as well. Food chain specifically is kind of hard to tutor in this deck. We basically only have Enlightened Tutor, so it's definitely more of a secondary combo for this list, but it's an efficient combo, so we'll definitely keep it in mind. Wargate, all-star in basically any list that isn't running black. It is one of the most flexible tutors ever printed that's not black, and it's awesome at doing exactly that. It's your dockside when you need it, it's your breach when you need it, it's all of the things it could ever possibly be. Now, if you're noticing up here, we have Temur Sabertooth instead of Emil for these colors, and you might be wondering why that is the case. It actually has to do with the 14th Doctor. If you're playing Temur Sabertooth, you can bounce the Doctor and recast him over and over again to dig those 14 cards deep, right? But if you're doing something like Emil, you won't actually get the cast trigger again, as you'll just be flickering the 14th Doctor. So there's actually a chance, if you're using Emil Dockside as an infinite mana loop, that you actually can whiff on this circumstance, and therefore, if in the top 14 cards you don't hit one of these 2 Doctors, you actually just make infinite mana and do nothing with your deck, right? So we want to be able to avoid that possibility and use the combos that are actually going to consistently be able to actually win the game for us, right? As opposed to taking a gamble that setting up this combo will actually win, which that's not exactly the best thing to be doing. Now, because of the lack of card advantage in our deck, we do have sort of a number of 1-card combos layered through this list, right? The most obvious one is Intuition. Intuition is able to grab you some combination of Lion's Eye Diamond plus Underworld Breach plus Savine's Reclamation, which will be able to basically ensure that you get your Breach combo onto the board. It's a classic combo that many people are familiar with at this point. Brain Freeze can also be part of the equation if you have some of the other cards available to you as well. We also have the Spellseeker line in this deck, and that's something that I want to walk through while we go through this process. So for those who don't know, if you have Spellseeker in this deck, you can actually execute a combo with only using 1 cast of Spellseeker, hence it being called a 1-card combo in this list. Play your Spellseeker, you can go grab Ephemerate. Ephemerate will allow you to flicker your Spellseeker, and then it will be exiled to be rebounded on the next upkeep. Go and grab yourself a Final Fortune. Final Fortune will guarantee that you go to take another turn and therefore get the Ephemerate rebound ability to activate. So you go, cast that Final Fortune, and go to your next turn. On your upkeep, Ephemerate will trigger, and you will target the Spellseeker. With that Spellseeker, you will go and grab an Enlightened Tutor. Remember, this was still on your upkeep. That Enlightened Tutor you will cast and replace your draw for the turn with an Underworld Breach. Now, Ephemerate's in your yard, and you have an Underworld Breach in your hand. Play the Underworld Breach. With that Underworld Breach, you go and you recast your Ephemerate out of your graveyard. The Ephemerate will flicker the Spellseeker once again, and you go and grab a copy of Brain Freeze out of your deck. Now, with Brain Freeze and Underworld Breach, we are basically almost to the end of our combo. What you can do is you can target yourself with a brain freeze, basically getting the copies that you have here. And once again, a reminder that you still have an enlightened tutor in your graveyard. So in response to the brain freeze actually happening, you can cast that enlightened tutor once again. You can go and grab your Lion's Eye Diamond, put it on top of your graveyard, and then as you're brain freezing yourself, you are able to mill the Lion's Eye Diamond into your graveyard, and therefore you will have your full combo of Brain Freeze, LED, and Underworld Breach. In that sense, Spellseeker becomes a 1-card combo in this deck, because all you need to do is get Spellseeker and you can walk through this entire line. But yeah, that's how you convert Spellseeker to a 1-card combo, which is obviously very, very strong, especially once again in a deck that doesn't have black tutors or card advantage. I mean, if we look back at the list, there's so many different ways to tutor creatures with this deck, right? And especially to tutor Spellseeker, we have Imperial Recruiter, Finale, we have Eldritch Evolution, we have Wargate, Eladamri's Call, and Worldly Tutor, a number of different ways on top of Gamble and a couple others that are able to go get our Spellseeker and make it so it goes into play so we can execute that combo. So Spellseeker line is a very clean line and definitely something that's going to push us towards a win. Now I'm going to go by card type and talk about any sort of standouts in these selections. So we've already kind of mentioned the use of both of these planeswalkers here. We can move on to the creatures. We have Mana Dorks, Esper Sentinels, a great card draw engine. We can move past the mana section. We have Dockside, obviously amazing card, combo outlet, etc. Random Abolisher and Kudzil we talked about already. Eternal Witness, good to know. Apart from the general implications of Eternal Witness being a good card, there's also some actual lines with this card in this deck. So for example, to end the game, Temur Sabertooth plus Eternal Witness allows you to pick up the Eternal Witness, and once again, you're assuming you have infinite mana at this point, which we've demonstrated a number of different ways to do with the deck. But picking up Ewit over and over again means you can infinitely recur a spell, the easiest of which is Lightning Bolt, which allows you to infinitely Lightning Bolt your opponents to death, which is a very simple way to end the game. It's also important that Eternal Witness and Displacer Kitten actually form a combo as well with our friend Lightning Bolt and the card Lotus Petal. So what you can do is if you have Displacer Kitten and Ewit on the battlefield and Lotus Petal and Lightning Bolt available to you, you can cast Lightning Bolt, play Lotus Petal, flicker Eternal Witness, pick Lightning Bolt back up, crack the Lotus Petal for a red mana, play the Lightning Bolt once again, and you can infinitely flicker the Eternal Witness, picking those back up and recasting them, therefore creating a loop. So that is good to know as far as combos in the deck as well. It's a little bit harder to assemble, but because of Imperial Recruiter, you can actually start picking Imperial Recruiter, grab Kitten, flicker Recruiter, grab Ewit, that type of thing. Also Dockside can be thrown in there as well if you need the extra mana. Moving on down to the only card we haven't talked about at this point, we're talking about Phyrexian Metamorph. Clones are more powerful than they've ever been in cEDH, and Phyrexian Metamorph is definitely no exclusion of that. You can get a copy of the One Ring, you can get a copy of your opponent's Docksides, you can make a Hullbreaker Horror, you can make whatever fantastic creature is on the battlefield. Clones are an all-time high. You want to be playing them. Right now we have a lot of mana and tutors for this section. We can go down here to the wheels. Wheels are very, very good in an Underworld Breach focused deck, which this one definitely is. So getting a bunch of wheels in, especially once again, you know, a lot of players talk about things like, oh, you don't want to wheel against decks like Rogsai and stuff like that. K-9's very similar. We talked about how explosive this commander allows us to be. So the ability to use these wheels to their utmost potential is very good here. Nothing really crazy in the instance, a lot of interaction, a lot of tutors. That's basically it. Same thing here with the artifacts, many pieces of acceleration. We have our One Ring for card advantage, Defense Grid for protection, and Grinding Station as a combo piece. Our enchantments, most of them are card draw, 2 of them are combo pieces, that's about it. And our lands, we have it nice low, 26, but it is nice and low because we have a 1-drop in the command zone that turns on a number of different accelerants for our game plan. Maybe let's take a look at some hands here and try and get an idea of what to keep when looking at this deck. All right, let's take a look at our first hand here. We got a no-lander, so not great. All right, this is a 1-lander here, but it's an Ancient Tomb, so probably not able to cast a single spell in our deck, and therefore gotta go away. All right, we have our 6 here. We are down to 6 cards. On turn 1, we cannot cast this Tinderwall. This LED is kind of a dead card pretty early on. This Final Fortune's a dead card pretty early on. We can cast our K-9 turn 1. We can also gamble on turn 1 with either of our lands here. But we're keeping a sort of risky hand if we keep a hand like this. Basically, I think you're hoping that you keep some of these useless cards, you go for the gamble, you hope to pitch any of the useless cards here, and then maybe keep like a Dockside and then go K-9 into Spellseeker or something like that. This is pretty rough here too, so I think I'm gonna go to 5 cards. All right, we're looking at a 5, and let's roll for player order here just to see if this All right, we're going 4th. This Gemstone Caverns is online. Looking at a 5, what do we think about this hand? I mean, we have 2 lands here, already a lot closer to casting a wheel than we previously were. So I think the wheel is the thing that's gonna kind of dig us out of this 5. Actually, if we keep this 5 here, what we can do is, oh no, that doesn't quite work because we have to exile something to Gemstones. So we're definitely putting the Pact and the Grand Abolisher to the bottom of our library. Yeah, if we could keep all 5 of these and didn't have to exile some of the Gemstones, that's a turn 1 wheel, but we do because, oh, it's still not a turn 1 wheel because we have K-9. Ha ha ha. I'm just wrong there. That's okay. So in this circumstance, I think maybe we actually, yeah, I think we're still kind of in a tough spot. You might want to actually exile one of the other cards we put to the bottom and then just keep the wheel and the LED. Let's pretend one of the other ones is exiled. And that way, if you hit a land drop on that second turn, you can wheel and then hold priority, crack the LED for maybe like 3 blue or something. Hope you hit a Ristic Study, something like that. Hopefully we don't have to mulligan down that low every single time, but that is the risk when you play a sort of proactive deck like this one. This first hand, you can have 1 land and you have an LED and a bunch of other random stuff, but it's not really doing much of anything. You don't have any card advantage, you don't have any angles to be pursuing a win condition here. Gonna ship it away. All right, this is something we can definitely work with, right? We got, turn 1 Mana Dork, turn 2, we're able to play our Imperial Recruiter. We also can start setting up to maybe like grab a Dockside so that we can start doing Spellseeker stuff. We can also go grab Dockside, do wheel things. We can go grab Displacer Kitten and start messing around with that as well. There's a lot of potential with a hand like this and several different avenues to start pursuing with the deck. Not even to mention that the wheel is here as well, right? Like these 2 cards alone are definitely a solid game plan for us to be pursuing. And then it's nice to have the acceleration here. Looking at our first 7 with a new hand, we got some early mana sources, but it's a little bit awkward because we don't have a second artifact here to turn our K-9 into a Mox Opal activation. We have some interaction, which is nice, but we really don't have a game plan to be pushing for, and Wargate's a little mana intensive, so I don't think we're getting there anytime soon. So yeah, this hand's very slow. A bunch of 3 drops, 2 lands, can't really cast anything except for our commander, maybe if we hit the Exotic Orchard to having blue. This 5's a little bad too, I'm not gonna lie. These mulligans have not been very kind to us. We definitely don't want the 3rd Doctor here. That's something that would be mulliganed away anyways, but just having our Fierce Guardianship online does not make a hand keepable. We have Sabertooth, we have no tutors, no anything like that, so I think we gotta go to 4. Okay, I mean, that is it's a turn 1 ring, so that kind of makes up for the fact that we had to go to 4. I mean, even if you keep like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter. It is a turn 1 ring, so yeah, we'll take those. Okay, we have a bit of acceleration here, but nothing to really put that acceleration into, right? We can get Tinderwall and convert that right away to a Fellwire Stone, untap with 3 mana, or we can tap with 4 mana. Either way, we just have some counter spells and a Tiber Sabertooth. That's not gonna really get us a game plan going, so let's go to second 7 here. We have a Mana Dork down, a land here for that, and then some Grand Abolisher stuff and some combo pieces. Not really going to be doing much of anything. We have no card advantage. We have no ability to pursue a game plan. We got to go to 6. 6 is not fantastic. We have a land and Mox Opal, a Breach, Ewit, Mind Break, Ranger Captain, Sylvan Library. We don't even have a second mana source for Sylvan Library. We don't have a second artifact to turn on the Mox Opal. This has got a lot of awkwardness to it, so we're gonna go to 5 here. Okay, this 5 is something we can definitely keep, right? We have turn 1, the ability to go get Ragavan. We keep Spellseeker for either the ability to combo early or later in the game. We can keep a Worldly Tutor for that. We can also keep a Kutzil and hope that by the time we want to play that Spellseeker, we can go for a Kutzil turn 2 and then a Protected Spellseeker line turn 3. Feels pretty good to me. Let's get one last keepable hand for this deck. This one has a turn 1 bird, but we have a lot of our combo pieces without the right parts of the combos here, so let's ship it away. No lander, get out of here. Down to 6. All right, we have our 8th Doctor, but we can put him to the bottom of our library. We can lead with a Mystic Remora. I don't love leading with Mystic Remora in situations in which we don't have other mana to develop, so I do kind of like the idea of turn 1 actually just playing the Tinderwall, and then turn 2 having Mystic Remora plus a bunch of other stuff that we could be doing, which is definitely far from bad. So I kind of like that idea a little bit more. And Mystic Remora sort of saves a lot of mulligans. I think Remora is kind of a freebie here. Let's check another one out. And speaking of Mystic Remora, this one I can't even cast it. So second 7. No lander, little awkward here. Yeah, we need lands. How about this 6? So we got another Remora keep. I'm gonna keep doing these mulligans until I get a keep that makes me think a little bit harder than just Mr. Remora keep then. All right, we got a first 7 here. Hey, this is a little something else, right? This is a different form of card draw on Sylvan Library. Turn 1, we get the Noble Hierarch down. If we hit lands, we can maybe hit Ragavan turn 2 on top of Sylvan Library, but if not, worst case scenario, we have Sylvan Library with Force of Negation backup. All pretty good stuff. Nice to see a nice keepable 7 there. That's the kind of stuff we're looking for in this deck. You know, don't get tricked by the fact that you can cast this commander early. It does not provide you card advantage, but it provides you a brief amount of acceleration as well as a fantastic outlet in the command zone. So yeah, this is our Dogsai, aka David Tennant 2 and Poochie Magoo list. I hope you all enjoyed this video. It's been fun brewing this commander, and I'm curious to what people's thoughts about this deck. Do you guys think this deck has any legs, or do you think it's maybe just a little too clunky on different angles to make it truly viable as a cEDH commander? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Without any further ado, thank you all for watching this episode, and I'll see you next time.